Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I finally got a chance to sit down and use the My Favorite Things Birthday Speech Bubbles stamp set, which I have had a lot of requests for since this was released earlier in July for MFT's July release. So I've shown this in a previous video, but I thought I would show it again since I had to do it anyway. But brand new stamps like this, and especially images like this that are a larger, more solid image, need some form of conditioning before inking them up. It just works better. There's all sorts of ways to do it. Here I'm showing just rubbing my hands and my fingers against the stamp, and you could see there I kind of showed it in the light. It starts to pick up some of the residue from your hands. You can also use an eraser, but that just kind of helps remove the shiny residue that's kind of left over from the manufacturing process. Because if you've ever used brand new clear stamps and you notice the ink is kind of pooling up on the stamp and you're not getting a clear image, this is why. So conditioning it first, like I said, rub it against your hand. You could use an eraser. Some people rub it against their jeans. Just something to kind of help remove that sticky residue, as well as like just using it multiple times helps. And then another thing that helps is using the Misty, because sometimes no matter what, with really solid flat images, trying to get a perfectly inked image is nearly impossible. So that's where I'm so loving the Misty, because then I can stamp it multiple times. So not only did I want it for this to get, a clean stamped image, I also wanted to create sort of an ombre look. So I am only using one stamp at a time, and I'm inking it up multiple times, and then I'm just using a microfiber cloth to remove some of the ink. So I started with MFT's Coral Crush ink, and stamp that with the ink close to the top of this happy stamp. And then I'm inking it up with Tickled Pink, and I'm using their dye inks. They have a new formula now, and they come in different packaging. I still have some of the old color box ink pads, but they're pretty much the same thing. But yeah, the one thing too with My Favorite Things dye inks, as well as Simon Says Stamp and Hero Art Shadow inks, they're all pretty much the same formula from what I understand. And something to note with these inks is when you first stamp them, they can look a little blotchy, but as they dry, they kind of smooth out into the cardstock. It's kind of hard to explain, but I really noticed it with these. Like when I first stamped them, it's like they still looked a little bit blotchy, but as it sat and really fully dried, it became softer and smoother. So that's another thing to take note. Sometimes if you're not 100% happy with how something is stamped, if you're using these inks, let it sit for a while and just really fully dry. It doesn't take very long at all, but even just a few minutes. So I stamped all the images doing just inking them up, and then I removed the color with the microfiber cloth, and then I set that all aside. And then for my background, I decided I wanted to use some embossing paste, which I haven't used in forever. And I was going to use white originally, like just as is. And then I was like, nope, I've got these inks out. I want to play around and add some color. So I just smushed all three of those same ink pads onto my Ranger craft sheet here. And then I added some embossing paste with my palette knife. And then I just got to town there mixing up the colors. So I mixed up the pink and then the coral and the yellow. And these colors, FYI, are from this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, which is every Wednesday. And I always have a link to the challenge in my blog post that's linked below the video. So all the info is there for those that are curious about that particular challenge. I do get asked about challenges. This is pretty much the only one I play along with. I do play along with occasional other ones, like every once in a while. But I'm on the actual, the little design team for Color Throwdown Challenge. That's why you guys see a video from me every week with it, just because I like to make videos with my cards. So I mixed up my embossing paste here, and then I'm just applying it rather messily across. This is the large polka dot stencil from MFT, and I didn't want it to be perfect. I just kind of wanted it to fade off a bit, I guess, and let the colors kind of meld and do their own thing, but not mix them up too much so that it all becomes one color. So did that, and then I went and rinsed off my stencil and palette knife in the sink, because you do not want to let embossing paste dry on those, because otherwise it's nearly impossible to remove. So then for my next step, I got some white cardstock and some Stick-It adhesive, and I just trimmed down some of the scraps of the Stick-It adhesive and backed 3 pieces of white cardstock with that adhesive, and then ran that through my die cut machine with the Happy Birthday Die-namics from MFT, and I just die cut the word birthday with those. Because that's the only one I had wanted to use. So I die cut that 3 times with 3 separate pieces of cardstock that each one I had backed with that Stick-It adhesive, just because this is such a fine detailed die cut that I didn't want to sit and fiddle with, you know, my multimedia matte adhesive and all that, since I wanted to stack all 3 of these together. And again, I've shown this in other videos too. I left the third die cut still in the scrap there, especially with a die like this that is so fiddly. That's my word for it. It made it so much easier to adhere each of those together by keeping that one in the scrap there, so it's already in place. And then all I had to do was peel the adhesive off the back of the other 2 and lay them on top. So super, super easy. And then I'm going to set that aside again so that I can adhere all my elements to my card. So I've got my little background with the stencil polka dots, and I'd let those completely dry. And then I popped the 3 speech bubbles onto it just with some foam tape. And before putting the third one into place, I wanted to make sure I had them spaced out properly so that I could adhere that die cut birthday in between those. So I peeled off the backing from that birthday and then just pressed that on top of those speech bubbles. And then I had the little tittle, it's called, of the eye. Gotta thank Laura for that one. I never would have known that if I hadn't watched her videos. So anyway, stuck that into place, and then as a final bit of embellishment, I've got the 2 sizes of marshmallow sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. I have the 4mm and the 6mm. So just kind of arrange those rather haphazardly around my card just to kind of add to it. I went with these instead of the sparkling clear, which are my like all-time favorites. But I just thought these were a little bit softer and went nicer with this card because I didn't want to go all nuts with the glitter and the craziness this time. I know, shocking. Shocking. But yeah, adhered those into place with some multimedia matte adhesive, and then I grabbed some pink cardstock from my stash that I cut down to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I scored it at 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder. And then put some Tombow multimedia adhesive on the back of that there. And I've said this in many videos too, but I really love that adhesive, and it gives you some wiggle room to kind of shift things around a little bit if they're not lined up perfectly. So got that adhered to my card front, and then that last little word bubble I adhered to the inside, and that finished off my card. So that finishes it out for today. I will have a link below the video to my blog post, which will have pictures of the card as well as links to all the supplies used. So check that out below if you're interested, as well as if you'd like to play along with the Color Throwdown Challenge. We post a new one every Wednesday. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.